What is up, everybody? Hunter with Lost Socket Garage. Have you ever wanted to convert a 65 or a 66 Mustang Coupe to a Fastback, but you don't know the measurements? We got the video for you. Today we're going to be breaking down our 66 Mustang and all the measurements that we use to turn this coupe into a Fastback. Stay tuned. All right, so today we have an awesome video for you guys, very, very highly requested. We did a 67 and a 68 measurement video for you Coupe to Fastback guys out there. Check that out. I'll try to put a link in one of the corners. This is a follow-up to that video, except with a 65 and 66. This is a 1966 Ford Mustang. It started life as a coupe, and we changed that a little bit. We've done quite a bit of work to this car so far. We're going to give you a quick overview, and then we're going to get straight into measurements. Like I said, this is a 66. The customer wanted this to be a very, very stiff car, and we turned it into one. So what we did, first off, is we installed the Mustang II Front End set up for a small block from Mustangs to Fear. That comes with QA1 coilovers. We got some nice disc brakes to go along with it. We use the panel patches, the shock tower patches, because when you do a Mustang II Front End, your shock towers, they go away. Lots more room for activities. For you guys that have ever tried to change spark plugs in a 390, you'll know that you wish that you did not have shock towers there. So we only use the partial patches. We do have a video coming up fairly soon where we're going to be using the entire Mustangs to Fear engine panel, so I'm excited to bring that to you. That's coming in the future. So Mustang II Front End, we installed this low profile tire here for extra handling. That's a joke. Another thing that we did here for suspension, and I'll be probably posting like a video here about it shortly. In my opinion, it's one of the best bang for the buck upgrades you can do to this car, and that is frame rail extensions. Derry, I hope you limbered up before you started filming. Frame rail extensions, they go right here, and they basically just connect your front and rear frame rail. These things are a couple of $100, and you can buy them in a couple of different flavors, weld in or bolt in or whatnot. We got the bolt in ones, and we just welded them in. They add a ton of rigidity to your car. Unibody cars structurally need a lot of help. So that's why we put in frame rail connectors. Now, a part that we're not going to show you because it's underneath the car and it's not fully set up yet is the 4-link suspension from Ride Tech that we use. Now, we did weld in the cradle, but we don't have a motor and trans for this car. Or a rear end, so we are unable to set the pinion angle, so we can't finish the setup, but we went ahead and welded in the cradle underneath there and then just threw it back on the leaf springs that it came with. The customer later on, I believe he's going to just do a built small block, but that's going to be just a stiff ride. It's going to be a great suspension setup for that. Now, after suspension, we wanted to concentrate on saving the car, all the metal work that was done. Now, this car came in fairly clean to begin with, to be honest with you. Didn't have to do a lot of rust work on this at all. It was incredible. We want to keep it that way for years to come though. So we use a product called Raptor Lining. We're not sponsored by them or anything like that. I just buy a ton of their stuff. We really like it, especially for the underneath of a car. It is more of a textured feel, basically like a truck bed lining or rhino lining, stuff like that. So we did coat the entire underneath of the car with it, but also to add some sound deadening properties and save the inside, we actually did the same thing on the inside. Now, this is definitely more of a textured look. We didn't dilute it at all. The more textured it is, the more sound deadening properties it has. These are very, very loud cars comparatively to what you and I are used to driving on the daily. So all the sound deadening you can get in this thing is going to help. It's going to keep heat out of the cabin. It's going to keep noise out of the cabin. Makes it a solid sounding car. So we went ahead and Raptor lined the entire inside of the car. Okay, moving on to the important stuff here. Let's talk about our measurements. Now, we're not 100% done with this car. It's getting picked up in a couple of days. We still have to, you know, trim off seam seal and do some different things here and there. But it is together. Everything's welded. She's almost out the door. So I thought it would be a good candidate to go ahead and do a measurement video for. Now, the first thing that we start off with when you're doing a conversion, you're always going to want to put down what your measurement is. Typically, we write it on the rocker panel between your B pillar and your A pillar. This is going to be your starting measurement. Where we ended up with this car, however, now if you guys watched my 67 and 68 video, you'll notice that originally we were actually taking the measurement off right here from the bottom of the A pillar and this seam right here at the bottom of the B pillar. The issue is the B pillar right here is at a little bit of an angle, so it's harder to actually get your measurement correct. So we actually just kind of bumped it back. So we take the measurement from this flat piece of the A pillar, go down to the B pillar, and we're going to end up at about 37 and an eighth to a quarter, right around that area. There is no set measurement for this. These are hand-built cars, so there's going to be a margin of error there. So a lot of these measurements are really good starting points for you until we start getting into really the back window and your door gaps, etc. That's when you really need to get your measurements down to, you know, within a 1/16 of an inch if possible. The next measurement we take is actually from the middle of the A pillar to about the middle of the B pillar. Now, when you put in your inner structure, your B pillar is going to be able to move back and forth. So we want to set this distance as soon as we can. We use this seam right here, and we run it back to a flat part on the B pillar, and we're going to end up at about 47.5 to right there, right at this seam right here. Now, you have the bottom of your B pillar set in, you have the top of your B pillar pretty much where you want it. Now the question is, for your inner structure, when you set it on, how far does your B pillar need to be away from the next B pillar? So what I typically do is your B pillar kind of fans out a little bit, but right where it's flat, it's about an inch down, about where it's flat, we're gonna come up at right about 54.25. That's the distance from your B pillar to the next B pillar. That's gonna be an important measurement for you. The way that you keep that measurement locked in once you have it is actually going to be the roof support. And a little dark in here, but I'm gonna do my best to take the camera and show you exactly where we are measuring to. All right, so this is your roof support. Looks like I'm zoomed all the way out. So we want to take, this is a piece of your inner structure. I have the flash on my phone right now. It's not great, but where your inner structure meets up to this roof support, basically we just kind of split the difference, go right in the half, right halfway through it basically, measure from here across here. Now that's straight line. Let me back you up a little bit. This is a bend. We do a straight line measurement straight across. And we're gonna end up at, I can't multitask like this. So your roof support needs to be at 44 5/8. Again, that's a little bit of a ballpark measurement, but that's gonna get you really close to where you end up wanting to be. So you have your B pillar set this way. You have your inner structure set in. We need to take a look at the height of the inner structure. Now, your inner structure, the way that we measure this, your inner structure is going to come with pre-drilled holes where these brackets are. We split the two holes because you're not going to have these brackets in right away. We typically put in brackets at the very last. So basically we split the two holes. There's a seam between your transition tunnel and your basically drop down. This is a piece of the drop down. So we take this seam. Again, you can't see it very well because of the Raptor lining, Also a note on that, the Raptor lining is taking up a little bit of thickness, but really not that much. We're at about 17.5, so that's going to be the height of your inner structure. Now, once you actually set the height of your inner structure, you want to bolt it to your wheel well to set that height, because it's gonna basically split your wheel well lip. So you have your outer wheel well, inner, that lip right there. Your inner structure is gonna do this, and so you're gonna bolt it to that wheel well to set that height. After you've done that, we're gonna move back to taking a look at the back window gap. Now this is where the most amount of trouble is had. This is gonna be probably one of your biggest pains in the ass, is setting this back window gap. But it is incredibly important, because otherwise your glass is not going to fit. So all these other measurements basically rotate around this back window measurement. Back window measurement is going to be 33/7/8. Now it's easier on a 67 and a 68 because it has a body line right down the middle. Even on the filler panel. Now this filler panel on 65 and 66 is much larger. It's harder to work with, but basically we want to just kind of go straight down the middle of the car. I use these two pegs, and we want to be at 33/7/8 to the corner before it starts turning down. So 33/7/8 right down the middle. This is an incredibly important measurement. So make sure you get this one right. The next measurement that we use, and again, moving back on the car, because these are a couple of the last measurements that we actually take before we weld everything together. It's going to be the corner of the quarter panels for the trunk. Now, corner to corner, where we want to be at here is about 52/3. Okay. This one, it's a little bit hard to do without a friend. So again, don't try to do a conversion without having a friend, but we're right on at 52 3/4 on this. We've already test fit the deck lid. When you're test fitting a deck lid, throw the quarter panel extensions on as well, just to make sure everything is lined up okay. Another measurement that actually probably wasn't in the first video is your trunk measurement. We should be at about 13.5. That's to the end of the tail panel. Now, a couple of things to consider. If you're using your stock panel, which you can, the tail panels are exactly the same across the board, from Fastback to Coupe. So if you're using your stock tail panel, basically you're just going to be wrapping the quarter panels around that stock panel. You do want to get the distance of this right, which again is 13.5 this way. But when you're fitting the quarters to the tail panel, just squeeze it in. That's why one of the last things that we actually do is connecting it to the drop down, because we fold those quarter panels in around that tail panel. So one of the last measurements that we're going to look at here, probably should have covered this a little bit earlier, but this is our drip rail measurement. Drip rail is obviously very, very important because it goes on underneath the roof. So before you tie your roof down, make sure that you have your drip rails in. We go at about, just from the inner structure out, we go at about 2.5 inches.
That's what she said.
From right here to the outside of this. So about 2.5 inches. And then under here, it's just tucked up. It just makes sure that it's laying flat. Now sometimes, the way that the drip rail, there's a tab that goes basically underneath the roof right here. Sometimes you have to bend that tab a little bit before you weld it down, just to get it to sit flat. But don't get discouraged if you have an issue with that. Just get this to 2.5 and then butt it up against the roof on top. All right, so that's the walk around of our 66. That's your measurement video for a 66. We've done a lot of these cars. Don't get frustrated with your measurements. Get them as close as you can. There's a lot of good information out there. We try to kick out as much information as possible as far as lining up panels, etc., little tips and tricks and tools that help you out. So definitely consider subscribing to the channel. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all the stuff. It really does help the channel. Now, on that note, if you guys have a car that you want to show off, send me a 2 to 3 minute video about your ride. It doesn't have to be a Mustang, but we'd love to feature it here on the show. We've already done a couple of them. We love them. So send them in, lostsocketgarage@gmail.com. Keep it to about 2 to 3 minutes. And, you know, tell us a little bit about your car, where it came from, and why you love it so much. That's going to do it for us today here at Lost Socket Garage. Again, thank you guys so much for the support. Send in your car videos to us. Again, lostsocketgarage@gmail.com. If you have questions, or if you have a coupe that you want us to convert, shoot an email to me. Same email address, lostsocketgarage@gmail.com. I'm happy to answer questions for you guys at home doing your own coupe to fastback conversions. If I have time, I'm happy to help. Until next time, guys, it's rough out there right now. Be nice to everyone. Be kind to everyone. Don't be a dick. Do what you love. And as always, never be tamed. Peace!